Hey everybody, I'm Jody Vance.
And I'm George-Affleck.
And it's time for
Happy Birthday to Jody! Unspun.
I did not see that coming.
Well, you should have told me it was your birthday next week.
I shouldn't have told you that it was. It is. I love my birthday. I love getting older. I will be 54 years old. I'm very proud of my age, and I'm very proud of my grandmother taught me to embrace every age and make sure that all my lines are from smiling. How am I doing?
It's
she goes,
good.
You don't want these. Anyways, yes.
I have one of those faces that's always grumpy looking. I think sometimes when I'm just sitting around.
I look at myself. I'm looking at you.
You look like a jerk.
You're not a jerk, George-Affleck. Hey, right off the top, follow George on Twitter at George_Affleck, and I'm at Jody Vance on Twitter. You and I have been very busy talking on radio and getting things going and keeping people informed. The worst kept secret of the last 2 weeks is like the Ritz dropping, and now
I know. Do you like? You can't see this if you're listening. Obviously, I'm wearing my Aaron O'Toole uniform, and you are actually too a little bit. We're both wearing black t-shirts, sort of, and I'm not sure how that.
Sun's out, guns out. George-Affleck, show some. Aaron O'Toole. What was the look he was going for there?
It's always one of those things in politics. You want to kind of look like a people's man, right? And you want to, and for him, he's up against, the Trudeau, who's quite sexy, and in his people consider is, cute or whatever people think. Not as much perhaps anymore, but now he shaved his beard off, so he's gone back to his youthful self.
Oh no! For the first announcement, he had coiffed. He has tightened that hairdo.
Yes,
he is looking
more corporate.
Oh, for sure.
So if you're up against that, I think they're rolled up sleeves, and I think you're up against that. And so you think, oh, we can make Aaron O'Toole, who probably is pretty casual in his normal life. I mean, he was ex-military. Looks like he's pretty fit in that photo, but. It's also some of the stuff they're doing that are, they've done some of their commercials and their social stuff, like the head on the dancing thing from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Willy Wonka, yeah.
Willy Wonka.
Yeah, Veruca Salt is her name. Veruca Salt.
There's a band called Veruca Salt. I'm not sure if they're still together. So it's a fine line between funny and effective and sexy to creepy and awkward. And
or just simply like a massive misstep. You're in your curved communications. The NDP needs crisis management on their Twitter feed.
The provincial. That was. We'll get into that maybe.
We should.
That's a challenge when you have other people writing your tweets. In politics, I never let people write my tweets. Nobody's ever written my tweets ever. Because it's like, no, that's my place for chatting.
That's your voice. I would never let somebody tweet for me. I would never give somebody access. I'd rather give them access to my credit card than my Twitter account. But let's talk about the federal behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've been a part of an election. You have lived it. You have sat in the you've sat in the war room, right? So tell me everything. What's it like? Take the spin out of it and tell me everything.
It's and McLean wrote a great column for the Orca, our editor, our managing editor. This is the least surprising election, of course, as we know, and the only reason they did it, as McLean pointed out, was the polling that showed that they can win this. And they'd have to have a huge misstep to lose. And what we saw in Nova Scotia, what happened, there was a flip there. The election happened and the Conservatives won and beat out the sitting Liberals, which was a surprise victory. The first COVID election that happened where the party in power lost. So it's possible, but very unlikely. And so in a war room, and generally first, before you make that decision, you if you have the ability to decide the election date, and in the case of British Columbia, Horgan didn't because we had a fixed date, but then he changed it. So basically, if you're in power, you can change the election date. But generally, we have in Canadian politics, the parliamentary system, we have the ability to kind of choose your election date. So they did the polling, they did the math, they saw that potentially the fourth wave coming, and that might have some damage. They need to get this done. and get going and hope gunning for a majority. They know the Conservatives are fractured. The Green Party is a mess. The NDP are their biggest threat for sure. Certainly here and other places where there's the swing ridings and where you might go NDP versus Liberal. So it's interesting, but when you make that decision, it's usually based on data. And interestingly, most political parties have their own polling system that they don't talk about. There's all these media polls and other polls that happen, and there's some stuff, but generally you don't release any information about your polling that you're doing internally because that's your strategy, and you're polling on a bunch of stuff that people don't know about or don't realize, and that helps you put together your whole positioning statements and all the stuff that matter for the election. We've seen them
break that down
in the last
for me.
few weeks, all these announcements. Those are all, infrastructure.
So break that down for me, because it's no surprise. Like we've seen the re-announcement tour, the candies being handed out. What did you call them? The money just starts to flow, right?
Pavement politics, when you're announcing bridges and tunnels and roads, and it's pavement politics, right?
Right. So when you're sitting around a war room table, George, when you're planning, when people don't realize that the writ will drop or the election call is coming, how do you decide? What does that process look like? Are you sitting with strategic marketing teams, or is it very, very like just the inside? Are there 20 people around a table? Are there 5? Are there 2? Like what?
It's a big team usually, but there's usually a few key people, and every campaign's different. There's not a lot of great campaign managers in Canada, so the ones who are good get picked up pretty quick. But having a solid campaign manager, what you can do, and this is a marketing thing really, and it's what we do for our clients, is you test stuff, right? So you can really do a lot of testing through digital media on what works and what resonates, and how many clicks and how much stuff resonates, and that becomes part of your strategy. So you pre-campaign, potentially you're putting out ads on social to test moods and figure out, this one's really resonate. You can geo-target stuff. And then once the campaign goes, what your creative is going to be, what's going to resonate, and then you go all in on that strategy. So the world's changed a lot because of digital media, because you can test so much. Before, you used to do more focus groups. You get people in a room, you talk to them, you try to get a sense of what people wanted. Now you can do a lot of that through digital media, through testing, which is what everybody in marketing does now. And then once you find those ads and that message that really resonates, and you see, okay, this is going to work, then you go full bore on that messaging. And so you're seeing that. Now we'll see those ads come out. You'll see it here on radio and TV. You'll see it in TV, and you'll see it through digital. But a lot of the testing's already happened. The polling's happened. They've tested stuff. They've tested creative, which is why it's surprising that the Conservatives are putting out some weird stuff. But they must have tested it.
Give an example of what you think is weird.
Well, even that one the one where from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, that sort of wacky thing. One of the strategies you can use in a campaign is stuff that gets people talking. And even if it's terrible and you think, oh my God, this is like so terrible idea. But what happens is you start talking about the party or the leader. So even there could be an argument that, I don't know, that cover on the Conservatives, policy book with Aaron with his, guns out and his t-shirt was strategic in that they did this because they knew that they had to not only make him look different, but also got people talking about this guy who's pretty much like, who's the leader of the Conservatives? What's his name?
Right. It dominated the headlines. It was like, have you seen it? Have you seen it? Have you seen it?
Free media.
Yeah.
That old adage, there's no such thing as bad PR, is kind of true. And they need to get that guy's face out there, and you can only do that through stuff that gets people kind of like riled up or going, what the hell? And then they will probably move into a more strategic, like, I'm a good leader kind of approach. Now we know who the guy is. Now we're going to, and he doesn't, even if you mocked it, you might be surprised. Oh, he's not so corporate after all, even if you mocked it.
Yeah.
And the Conservatives are trying to look at some of that stuff, make them less stuffy. That's all intentional. It's all strategy. This doesn't happen by accident. And so now they've done that part, and now they'll move into a more traditional campaign and get them out there. And now it's all about grassroots, get them every corner of the problem. Now that they can travel, they'll be working this country like crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, the liberal leader Justin Trudeau is in Victoria as I speak right here. Jagmeet Singh was the first NDP leader, the first to arrive and start campaigning. It seems that BC might just impact this election more than any other federal election prior to, is what they're starting to talk like. I don't know if that, I mean, it's always going to be the golden horseshoe. The election is perennially, doesn't matter what year it is, it's always called before votes are even counted in BC. So it's like, we're really important.
Well, you got a minority government. He's got to get a lot of seats. But you look at places like Port Moody has the potential to flip to Liberals. You have areas in Surrey that could flip to Conservative or NDP. You have Jody Wilson-Raybauld's riding, which could go Conservative or Liberal. I don't think it would go NDP. NDP gave me the spoiler there. I heard an ad today from the Conservatives, actually, on my way to work, and it's funny because I've used this, and I know John Cooper says this a lot about the park board, the Green Cope Alliance, and the commercial was the Liberal Green Alliance want this, blah 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 blah. I'm like, oh, interesting. So they are the Conservatives are aligning the Liberals with the Green Party, so they can sort of corner that area, and destroy the Green Party basically, but also they don't want to boost. They want people to vote NDP. They don't want to discourage anybody for those ridings where NDP
splits that vote.
They want those votes. They go vote NDP, vote, because they know that a lot of their ridings, they're not going to lose to the NDP. They're going to lose to Liberals. So wherever they can push the NDP vote, they're going to push that vote. And so the Green Party ate away at a lot of the NDP votes in a lot of ridings. If they can take those votes away and flip some of those Liberal ridings to NDP, so there's a lot of those ridings in BC that are NDP that could go, or that are Liberal that could go NDP or Conservative, depending on the NDP vote, or depending on the Green vote. Sorry.
Well, but that's just it. The Green vote. I mean, leading up to this writ drop, I mean, how low could the negative press and the internal infighting been worse?
Oh that meant they had no time to fundraise and all the stuff you need for a campaign. You're dead if you got no cash. Yeah. The other thing is the block, which we haven't heard a lot about. And I've heard, there's an opportunity in Quebec. So I think it'll be interesting to see how hard Aaron O'Toole works in Quebec, because a lot of those block ridings used to be Conservative ridings, interestingly, but they could also be Liberal ridings. So I think you'll see the block, I think, will be where the block ridings in Quebec are going to be hard hit, and there are potential for picking up some votes. Yeah. Ontario, I don't think much is going to change in Ontario, and I don't think much will change anywhere else, but I think Quebec's the one to watch, and some of BC.
I found it interesting when federal Liberal leader Justin Trudeau had his first press conference here. He did a little bit of an online town hall thing. He's like, and I'm coming to you from the unceded territory of the Squamish and the Tsleil-Waututh and the Musqueam Nation, and at my second home here, really my home here in British Columbia. I'm like, it's your home, is it now? Interesting. Okay, speaking of home, would love to bring people home. I'm finding myself awake at night about what's happening in Afghanistan.
I know.
I'm worried. I'm going to say this right off the top.
It's horrible.
The visuals are horrible, but I cannot imagine being a woman or girl who, over the last 20 years, had the ability to move freely around and get an education and still be cautious and aware, is now like in huge danger.
Right. I know, it's terrible. It's terrible. And it's their religion. It's their thing. It's not like they're going to change the basic principles of what they're saying, we're going to be, we're not going to be like that. But the basic principles of what they follow is pretty clear.
Yeah. How do we get people out of there?
Yeah. And so you'll see, the women are going to be completely covered up, and it's just, and and you see what the chaos at the airports in Canada, can't even get in there. We've got about 5,000 people that are Canadians that are there, like they can't get out. Yeah, it just seems like it's like, and Biden, this is his honeymoon's over. He's taking a lot of heat, and he took responsibility. So and I didn't think this would happen this fast. And but you look at clips from 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. This is not Vietnam. We're not going to see helicopters, coming into the embassy. Well, the images of the exact same helicopter, like, is that the same shot from Vietnam and in Kabul? I think it was the capital. It was I forget where it was. It was just
No, I think the embassy's in Kabul. I think you're right.
It was Kabul.
I think it is.
So,
but there are people in trying to get from one big city to another has checkpoints, and armed young men with U.S. rifles, and they say, you point out that they are saying that they're a different Taliban, but when speaking with the people that are there, and even watching the CNN coverage of, because the embedded reporter is a woman, and I watched her. What's her name? Anne. I can't remember her last name. It's awful. But I saw her on Colbert. Stephen Colbert did a big live hit with her on his show, and she was very poignant to say that burqa sales, the long veil that is like covered, everything's covered all the way to the ground, have quadrupled, and that she is speaking to women in Afghanistan and saying that they are terrified. I got mansplained because I put up a picture on my social media. I put it on my Facebook page, of all places, Facebook. Come on. And I had a former colleague of mine from decades ago slide into my DMs and completely try and mansplain how, Western women couldn't possibly know what women there want and I should stay in my lane. And I'm like, no. Women across the planet are going to step in on this. Exactly.
Equality. If they don't want to wear a burqa, they should. If they want to wear a burqa, great. If they don't want to wear a burqa, great. Whatever. But clearly, they're going to be forced to wear burqas, and But then you also see like ATMs, no more cash in ATMs. In Afghanistan, the banks are cleared out. You see, I saw some tweet. I haven't seen this verified, but all the female anchors are being pulled off the air on all the news stations.
Yeah.
And so the presence of women will become invisible, literally because of what they wear. And it's just, we're spoiled here. We have to remember that while we can argue, that things aren't perfect, but I just think it's going to be interesting. I don't know how the U.S. and, where the UN is going to come in on this. I mean, when we start seeing, if we see this stuff where starvation,
like Yemen, like Syria. Yeah. They can block it. Yeah. They can starve the people. They can take any aid that is received and withhold it and use it as power.
So we
have to take care of that.
Cambodia, 40 years ago in Cambodia, what happened? Totally unaware until after it was over how many people died. And now we see these terrible grave sites and, anyways.
We need to, what my goal is right now and trying to help VTN Canada, V as in Victor, T as in Tom, N as in Nancy, Canada.org is an organization that is working actively to assist those who helped Canadian forces who are marked and going to be in grave danger, if not already in grave danger. And VTNCanada.org is taking donations, and 100% of donations are going directly to the people who need it most to get them out of Afghanistan.
How are we getting them out, though?
But that's just it.
Get them to the airport.
But there are people on the ground there, and they're doing everything that they can it's on us to try and keep that momentum on and the pressure on our leaders. That's all we can do.
Yeah, and the bureaucracy, it's got to be so, because you have to have a process before you let these people into Canada.
Oh, for sure. But that's what they're suggesting. That's what they're suggesting. A vetting location outside of Afghanistan and also outside of Canada.
Oh God, that scares me.
It sounds all scary.
Because, that just ends up these places where people are in limbo forever. And that is not our thing.
No.
And you don't want to.
Okay, let's go to our thing. Yeah. There's no good transition between that and this. But hello, Massey Tunnel replacement announcement.
I mean, terrible idea. Unless you live in Richmond or Delta, who both love the idea, it's ridiculous. There's not even a train that can go through it. It's stupid.
That I think is weird.
And it's eight going from 4 to 8 lanes. And for buses, 1 lane for buses. Okay, great. There's going to be a bike lane through it, which is great. I think getting through that whole area on a bike and a pedestrian, fantastic. But I don't know about riding through a tunnel on a bicycle. Not a lot of fun. The thing that is people don't talk about, and politicians seem to be avoiding the subject that I am clearly aware of, is the port up in Surrey. That's why there is a massive port. Container ships and coal gets shipped out of the port up there. And one of the challenges
it's not in Surrey, just to be clear. It's in Tsawwassen and Ladner. Sorry, Surrey. I was like, there's a port in Surrey.
No. No, there's ports up the river.
Oh, up the river, right.
Up the river. And they need to get, but they can't, they have a challenge with the shipping and getting over a tunnel. And so there's whole tide issues. That's the reason the Liberals wanted a bridge. They talk a lot about, this is about commuters. It's not about commuters. This is about shipping. And it's about getting stuff out of that area. That's a massive amount of stuff. The trains are, the Vancouver will no longer, yeah, because it's easier than Vancouver. And even Vancouver has challenges because the Lionsgate Bridge is being for the cruise ships is too low. They have to wait for the tides to go. So the tunnel replacement, I haven't heard anybody talk about this yet, and I don't think anybody wants to talk about it because this to me is a bigger issue on shipping and trucking. So the reason the tunnels don't great because as a trucker, it's not the best way to drive through tunnels, and you can only get so much height and all that stuff. So
and you can't take dangerous goods through a tunnel. So they need to be on
so
the Alex
Fraser
Fraser
Bridge. So you have to do Alex Fraser, which is so that's going to create a whole mess over there. I don't know. It's
Rob Fleming did talk a little bit on the environmental front yesterday when he was making the announcement. He did say that there would be no dredging, there would be no environmental upheaval to the river, which is what the Tsawwassen First Nations chief referenced that he was satisfied that it was not going to impact.
They can't bore. They can't bore down there because it's too sandy. Right. So it's going to be the same as if the current tunnel. They're going to plop a concrete tube basically onto the bed of which that's the challenge. So I would say that the question I haven't heard answered is the impact that will have on the Vancouver Port Authority and its control of that Surrey port. Yeah. So, anyways, it's just
a no.
It's going to be so expensive. Yeah. Well, it's just like you don't do anything like just or replace the current tunnel and build a SkyTrain bridge and a bike bridge, and if you don't want or a bus bridge or I don't know, it just seems like really we're doing another tunnel in a place that it just seems we have and I know there's the whole environmental stuff in the metro. When I was on council, I went to metro board meetings when I was permitted, which isn't very often, but they had lots of discussions to, not have environmental issues related to the amount of not dredging, but just the, all the stuff they have to do to build a bridge. And
environmental impacts for sure.
Yeah, but there was tons of reports on that. They were just kind of trying to delay it. So I don't know. It's going to be over budget. It's going to take forever. It's not going to solve the problem. And it's going to be like an albatross. And it'll be to the Liberals' benefit in future campaigns. Probably not the next one because it'll be barely started by that point. In 10 years, when we see that tunnel cost $5 billion and doesn't work and is dangerous, then you'll be going, okay, that was a bad idea.
As you said, the people in Tsawwassen and Richmond are super happy. As somebody who grew up in Tsawwassen and has family in Tsawwassen, I just want it fixed. Whatever, because I don't pretend to know what the right equation is for that crossing. All I know is that is outdated infrastructure. It feels dangerous. They have done some improvements recently to it, but still, no, no. It needs, for me, I'm just like anything, let's go. So yeah, it's probably going to be a fortune. I hate the fact that there's not going to be some sort of high-speed transit to and from that part of the world. But the excuse I'm hearing, the reason or excuse, depending on how you look at it, is TransLink has no appetite for SkyTrain out that way. And I think that is just insane when you think about going to and from the ferry terminal, not even servicing the population out there. As soon as you improve the crossing, you're going to increase population. Because the reason people don't live out there is because it's so crappy to get to and from work. Yeah. It is unbelievable. Every time I lived out there doing radio, I had to leave 45 minutes early every single day. Every single day, just in the event that something went wrong in that tunnel, because it would be 45 minutes more. And I can't be late for work. I'm fired if I'm late for work. Yes. So
the fastest growing areas are South Langley and South Surrey, White Rock, and Tsawwassen. So you, of course, have all this agricultural land reserve in between. And so if you look at it, you go, well, that's a lot of stretch. But even if you had a train that went to Tsawwassen and stopped, and you had places where buses then could do the transfers.
Right.
Buses are not mass transit. Sorry, they're not.
They're not.
They're not.
I agree with you. I agree.
So
we agree, George. Do we agree on this? Where's John Horgan?
Where the hashtag Where's John Horgan?
Where's John?
It's it's so funny. It's a big deal. It's no big deal. It's going to this too will pass. You know, this is exact. You know, I talked about how John Horgan has all the same people that Gregor Robertson had behind the scenes. You know, he's got Jeff Meggs, and he's got all these other mysterious people that went to Victoria after that's after Gregor kind of left, and that whole contingent went over there. Gregor also did this twice in the Snowmageddon 2 and Snowmageddon 1, where we had these massive snowstorms. Gregor was nowhere to be found. He was in Mexico doing whatever, or South America doing. I think one time he was doing some good. He was building houses or something, but he was invisible. And of course, the big in Horgan in a situation like this, it's being invisible is really tough. But it didn't affect Gregor. He got elected again after both times. So, I think that's what they're thinking. It's early in the mandate. Don't worry about it, John. This will pass. People can't bring this up in 3 years and go, remember that time you were away for that? Nobody will remember. Enjoy your vacation. Get reinvigorated to come back for the fall session. That's all they're thinking about. They're thinking about how to, because everything else. So, and the argument, of course, and it's a good one, is he's king of delegation. He trusts his team, and that's his argument. And I don't know, it's a pretty good argument. It's like, but because he's got a pretty good minister of, there's some good people that are very comfortable with taking a lead here.
Whether it's the Minister of Health with Adrian Dix, or if it's Solicitor General and Minister of Public Safety Mike Farnworth, or if it's
these guys are solid dudes. They're not competition for him.
Right.
They're not backstabbers. They're in it, and so he's having his good time, whatever reason. We don't know the real reasons why he's out east. It could be family, but he's just having a holiday. Anyways, I just think they don't care because it's early in the mandate, but it's bad. It's bad. I mean, the thing is that he hasn't cared about the interior ever. So this is all happening in the interior where he has very little seats. So he never leaves Victoria, for God's sakes. The guy's barely in Vancouver, so he does not, if it doesn't happen in Victoria and Vancouver Island, he doesn't care. And that's clear. And so that's his decision. And again, I think they're right, though. I think as Gregor Robertson proved in Vancouver, it'll pass and people will move on, and it's not a thing that's going to end his career.
Right. We've only got a few minutes here, and I want to make sure we get to the municipal piece just a little bit, because also sort of MIA on a couple of fronts. I haven't seen the mayor of Vancouver speak about the groping incidents and the increase in sexual assaults in his city on his watch, nor have I been able to track down the chair or vice chair of the Vancouver Park Board to discuss more coyote attacks in Stanley Park. Like, I literally can't get a response. It's crickets. Where are these people? The
leadership vacuum in the city is unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
It's unprecedented. We say Gregor didn't show up for Snowmageddon, but and he was always a bit elusive to media, but nothing like this. This is and the mayor does, Kennedy-Stewart does these briefings every month or whatever it is, or 2 weeks. He does these Zoom calls, but that's not, that's one thing that's good. But not being here for stuff and coming out really quickly and being clear, and the park board, well, they're a park board, whatever. I mean,
it's frustrating. Whatever. It's frustrating. I went through all the proper channels,
yes.
But I interviewed the only two that will talk to me are Tricia Barker and John Cooper. So everybody on the planet thinks I only talk to NPA. It's like, no, just can't get the other ones to show up. Just can't.
Yeah. And it's really frustrating. Are they not willing? What are staff like? The new GM? Nah. This coyote thing.
Bueller?
This coyote thing. Yeah, Bueller. This coyote thing is like, I heard Bill Tillman.
Yeah.
I think it was on your show when you were on. Was it? And they had,
it was not on with me.
There was a debate.
It
was a debate, and basically Bill's like, get him rid of them all.
Yeah.
Get rid of them all.
He went up against Ms. Fox from Fur Bearers, right? And we talked about that last week.
Yeah, we talked about last week. But now we got another coyote attack. It's like, seriously, come on, what's going on?
Another coyote attack. 3 more just in the last 36 hours. My column this week. I'm channeling my inner Ted Lasso. If you have not watched Ted Lasso, it is time for you. You got it.
Yeah, they're nice. There we go. Very nice.
There's my Ted. He's so great. Listening. But the premise with Ted Lasso is that he is a football coach, a college football coach who gets tapped to manage a football club in London. So very much outside of his comfort zone when he goes there. Nobody expects him to do well. So I'm way outside of my comfort zone and likely not at all taking into consideration all the many things that go along with doing infrastructure like this. But I have now owned a Prius Prime electric hybrid for 8 months, and I've plugged it in once because I have nowhere to charge it. I have nowhere to charge it, and the lineups are. And so I was walking in my neighborhood, and I went by the elementary school parking lot, and there's a charging station there, and I thought, what if that were a fundraiser for schools? So read my column. So
every school,
a place to put in infrastructure. I pay a premium. Hey, as the leader of your school PAC, the parental advisory committee that you used to run, wouldn't you have loved automatic money just flowing in from the?
It's a question of hydro and their willingness. I think they control all of that kind of stuff and generating revenue. I know that my strata in my building, it's downtown. It's very, very complicated process to put in. You put the units in per unit. And then if you're going to have one outside, it's got to be, it's really complicated. Hydro doesn't make this easy.
Right. So let's fix that.
It's energy.
I got my red tape scissors out. Let's go. Yeah,
I know. Well, you look at the Tesla stations, they are fast chargers, and they're working with malls mostly or communities and saying, we'll put these in. And I think some malls will pay a lot of money to have Tesla's charging stations because it draws in hundreds of cars a day.
Yeah.
And so you got half an hour. Shop. That's right. You go to Hope right now, you can't even get a seat in some of the restaurants because there's so many Teslas charging in Hope. So, it's an opportunity for sure. And I think that you're right. I think that this is, the park board actually 2 terms ago put in charging stations in all the parking lots, and now you can't access those parking lots. Those charging stations are really accessible.
Way to ruin it for me, George. The Orca.ca is where you can read the middle, right here where you probably are watching or listening to our podcast. Thank you for tuning in. That's it for this week, buddy.
What? Bye.
See you next week. I'll be way older then.
Happy birthday.